one of the greatest men to ever walk this earth. Mr. Max, what's happening, baby? How you living?
Hey, man, I'm living good, man. You already know when you see this Nas fade, it can only be one brother, the good brother, Losty Mix, Danny Ocean, my brother. It's always a blessing being here with you. You already know what it is. You already know the vibes, man.
As always, D and I are going to break down the top 3 stories of the week. Tonight is all NBA. It's basketball season. We're full throttle now. As always, this is brought to you by goingfor2.com. Go over to goingfor2.com to get all your fantasy betting advice. Earn some extra paper, spend it on yourself, do something nice for yourself. Is that the dog in the back, D? What's happening?
It's my young bull, my young bull Henny. Look, come on now. It's my young bull, little Henny. You know, we be cooling, but this my young bull. It's my young bull.
What's up, Hendrix? All right,
he's not talking right now.
Yeah, it must be dinner time. I feel you.
Yeah, it must be dinner time. Must be dinner time.
So tonight, like I said, we're talking about basketball. And the first topic tonight, I'm very excited about this topic because I got a lot of slander in my spirit on these guys. So let's talk about the Jazz, right? So the Jazz right now have the best record in the NBA. They're 23-5. They've won, 19 out of their last 20 games. Are the Jazz legit in your mind?
Well, it depends. Are we asking, are they legit title contenders? I think.
Yes. Are they title contenders?
I mean, I think they have an argument for their legitimacy. I mean, right now, they're shooting. I think I read that they're shooting around 13 threes a game, which is, not 13. They're making about 17 threes a game, which is good. I mean, they're well-oiled team, very well-coached team. So I think in terms of them being legitimate contenders, I think they have, yes, because they're winning their games. Would I pick them in a series past the second round? Probably not. I'm gonna be honest with you. This Jazz team reminds me a lot of the Hawks team from a few years ago. That really good Atlanta Hawks team that won about 60 something games, 50, 60 games. They were really, really good. Had the number 1 seed in the East. I'm not going to remind you how that season played out, because I think if we all know basketball, we know LeBron came in and the Cavs, went ahead and swept them that year. I don't think they'll get swept this year. I think they'll give, I think they'll give someone a really good run for their money. But would I take them over the Lakers? Probably not. Would I take them over the Clippers? Probably not. But I think after the 2 LA teams, I think they make a legitimate argument for their legitimacy in terms of title contention. I think, if I had to pair them against, Phoenix or Denver, I think I'd like their chances. If I had to, maybe pair them with a Dame or against a Dame or a Luka in the playoffs, I would definitely like their chances. But in terms of beating the 2 LA teams, which are really the 2 top contenders in the West, I'm just not there yet. But I love Spider Mitchell. I think he's having a great year. Obviously, Rudy Gobert is playing like a defensive all-star this year, and silently Jordan Clarkson putting up numbers, silently coming off the bench putting up numbers.
He put up 40 last night against the Sixers. Last night he went off. I forgot that. If you guys who are watching want to participate, chat's wide open. Drop your comments, and if they're worthy of us talking about it, we'll say something on it. So the Jazz, I think, so today I sat down and went over their record, and they've only played 10 teams who right now have a winning record. But out of those teams, they're 7-3, right? They beat the Sixers last night without Joel Embiid, but we'll still give it to it. They won. With all that being said, hell no, they're not contenders. I don't believe it for a second. I'm not here for it. I don't trust them. When I talk about a title contender, in my mind is, can you beat LeBron James 4 out of 7? The Jazz can't beat LeBron James 3 out of 7. That series is going 5. I'm not. It's a feel-good story, and I love a good feel-good story. But when King James is on the court, it's a wrap. You give me LeBron and AD over Spider and Rudy Gobert 8 days out of the week. It's cool. It's cute. Yeah, they're winning. They're beating the Timberwolves, and they're beating the Hawks. This is fun. But yeah, when it comes to time, we know what time it is.
And I think what you're saying is pretty much why it's hard for me to put them over the 2 LA teams, because like you said, can you beat LeBron and AD 4 out of 7 games, right? I can't trust that the Jazz would. I don't think the Jazz would take the Lakers maybe to 5 games. I think 6 games max that series goes. They play the Clippers. I think that's a 7-game series all day of the week because you don't know what playoff P you're gonna get. So I would definitely think they could probably take the Clippers to 7. But who knows how the season goes. I think as the season goes, I mean, they're a really well-coached team. Quinn Snyder knows how to coach up basketball. It's just hard for me to see them beating the 2 LA teams just right now. Obviously, when we get to the playoffs and, you start focusing down on one team and defensive matchups and game planning for one team, maybe then, after a few games, after they're able to maybe make some adjustments, maybe they can steal a couple games or two, build some momentum and maybe knock somebody out. But I don't know, man. It's hard for me to sit here, confidently and say the Jazz are, coming out of the West.
In my mind, Donovan Mitchell can catch fire. Like, he can have it. He did in the bubble. Like, he had a couple of games where he's like, I'm taking over, but LeBron James is fire.
Right.
Like he's LeBron.
Yeah. And when logo LeBron come out and he really dropping them threes, I mean, it's a wrap because that's way too much offense for one team to stop when LeBron is making threes at a consistent clip like he's been doing all season long. He's been shooting the three well. This season. So obviously, obviously the health of Anthony Davis is pivotal. I don't think it's hard. It would be hard for me to think that the Lakers could beat the Jazz without Anthony Davis. I'm obviously saying that I would take the Lakers over the Jazz, assuming Anthony Davis is healthy, which I've been seeing he's been fine, which is a blessing, So
let me ask you about Donovan Mitchell, right? Because I feel like a lot of basketball Twitter is kind of split on Spider. Like, how do you feel about Donovan?
Oh, he's an animal. He's a dog. Let me tell you something. Any basketball player that can go into the bubble and score over 50, you need to recognize they are serious. Like they are serious. Donovan Mitchell is a legitimate future superstar in this league. Matter of fact, not future. He is a superstar in this league. He is a superstar in this league. And I think he's only going to get better. What is this, like his 3rd, 4th year?
I think this is year 3.
Yeah, this is like he has a lot of room to grow. His game is only going to get better. I'm a big Spider Mitchell fan. Once I saw him drop, what was it, 57 against the Nuggets? It like only like 2 other players had scored more at that age, and one of them happens to be Michael Jordan. Like, come on now. Anytime you sort of graphic with Michael in it, we need to recognize your greatness.
So I'm on Spider. I'm in the same place I am now, in the same spot I was with Dame Lillard a couple of years ago. Like, I can appreciate his game. Like, now to me, Dame Lillard is a superstar. Like, Dame Lillard has hit 33 go-ahead shots. That man is cold. I feel like Mitchell is on his way there. Maybe because he plays in Utah, because Utah Twitter is the worst Twitter. But
okay, can I ask you, who the hell from Utah do you follow on Twitter? Because I didn't even know there was more than like 30 people living in the state. No disrespect to anyone watching from Utah. I've just never, you don't wake up in the morning, you like, damn, I wonder what they doing up in Utah. Like, I just assume that the people who be selling at the games be traveling from all ends, around that area because, who lives in Utah? No disrespect to anyone living in Utah. You just don't hear, you don't wake up in the morning thinking, yeah, bro, Utah Twitter is where it's at. Who do you follow?
Hey, dog, I've fallen into the hole of Jazz Twitter a couple times, and it's just them complaining about Donovan not getting enough respect, right? It's all about them being a small market team. That was last year, right? Like, I don't know. I haven't been into Jazz Twitter since, but there was a time with Jazz Twitter would just get out here and just complain. Nobody wants to watch us. Donovan is a star. Like, dog, you're Utah. No, who wants to watch the Jazz? Like, now they do because, they're good. But I mean, who wants to watch? I'm sorry. So we just talked about Dame Lillard. Last week, moving on to the next topic, Dame said something really interesting about super teams, and he has been very vocal about super teams and not wanting to join one. But this is his quote. For me personally, that's just something I can't do. I'd rather go out there and put my best foot forward and lose before I do that, and that is joining a super team. Because I know I can win if I do that. What are your thoughts on super teams and Dame Lillard's stance on them?
Man, this is my thing on super teams, right? This is my thing on super teams. Name me a team that won multiple NBA championships that didn't have multiple really good basketball players.
Oh man, why'd you have to throw the multiple in there? You trying to discredit Dirk's Mavs? I see what you did.
I mean, that's okay. That's one example, right? When you think of when you think about like the history of champions or dynasties in the NBA, I mean, you know, Shaq and Kobe, Jordan, Scottie, Rodman. You can go Tim Duncan, Manu Ginobili, Tony Parker, LeBron.
See, I disagree with that. I don't think Tony Parker and like they're Hall of Famers, but they're not like the same caliber as Tim Duncan. Like they're not.
But they're Hall of Famers. When you're recognized as a Hall of Famer, that means you were really, really good. Really good. You were one of the great in your time, right? KD, Steph, Clay, Draymond, LeBron, D Wade, Bosh, LeBron, Kyrie, Kevin Love, LeBron, AD, D Wade, Shaq. I mean, it's hard. So when people complain about super teams, it's like, well, damn, would you want to be on a basketball team with not the best players? Would you just want some scrubs? Like, no disrespect, because really nobody in the NBA is a scrub, right? No one in the NBA is a scrub. It's just like in comparison to your peers, right? Would you not want to play with the best basketball players in the world if the salary cap can match it? And you know, if you can get everyone like, yes, why would you not? Like, I don't think, you know, I don't think super teams are. I think the only super team that was maybe questionable was the Warriors, right? KD, Steph, Draymond, Klay Thompson. Like that's OD. But could you blame KD? Could you blame KD? They were up 3-1 in that series and still lost. Yeah, could you blame them? Like I gotta go deal with this Westbrook dude who's shooting brick threes, game on the line, or I can shoot with the greatest shooting backcourt in history. I don't really think that's a second choice. So I think when it comes to super teams, it's like, well, damn, you do realize that everyone in the NBA is good, right? So like, you're not. I don't really think many NBA champions outside of that Mavericks team, who had some good players, by the way. They weren't on the caliber of Dirk, but you know, they had some decent players. They had no scrubs on there, but you're going to need multiple superstars to win a championship, because when a defense can just key on only you to win a championship, then what? Let me ask you something. Oh, sorry, I'm banging on the table again. Let me ask you something. You ever think back in 2001, you ever ask, would you think Allen Iverson would go back and take a really good player? Like, if you would ask him if I could get a really good all-star teammate and an effort to beat Shaq and Kobe, you think he'd go back and do it? I think he would.
Absolutely.
You know, look at Bron in 2018. He was putting up crazy numbers. Ask Bron, what did Bron do the very next year? He said, "Look, dog, I can't keep doing this, man. I can't keep doing this, man. I'm getting old, man. I need a good teammate." And then he went to LA, finagled that trade for Anthony Davis. It's key, you know.
So a few things. I just want to backtrack. First of all, Draymond and Kevin Love are not Hall of Famers. Draymond is close. Kevin Love is not a Hall of Famer. I feel like since LeBron's left, he's just kind of
he's been dealing with injuries, but I can second that. I can second that.
Second, the greatest sin.
Problem.
Second, the greatest sin in NBA history is Allen Iverson leaving without a ring. He is arguably the most influential basketball player ever, like at least top three, with Jordan and Kobe. I actually have Iverson painting I need to hang. That'll be next week. Anyway, but back to the question for real. I did buy an Iverson painting and it's going in my office. But back to the question. So we're talking about super teams, right? Like we have conditioned athletes, especially basketball players, that we only respect you if you have a ring. So in the same breath, we can't criticize them for chasing the thing we tell them they need before we respect them. And the biggest example is inside the NBA, like when Shaq and Charles Barkley have a disagreement. It doesn't matter if Barkley's right, because a lot of the time Barkley is right, but Barkley's making a great point. But Shaq always says, "Well, I'm the champion anymore," and that always derails the conversation. So I don't get mad at like KD. I don't get mad at these people creating super teams, because we've told them, hey, your career is meaningless if you don't have a championship. Like James Harden can retire today, and he's one of the greatest scorers. He's a first ballot Hall of Famer. But all people are going to say is, you never won a ring. Your opinion isn't valid. You're selfish. So I respect Dame and what he's saying, but he needs to know the further away we go from his career, the less credibility he's going to have because he never won a champ. If he never wins a championship, because he still can't.
Which is what it's probably one of the things I dislike right now about us NBA fans. I got to put us in because I'm a big NBA fan, but I hate this notion that just because you don't win an NBA championship, you're not an all-time great. Because if you think about it, majority of the NBA championships have been won by like a handful of franchises, like a handful of franchises who have like just stacked up on NBA championships. And that means there are a whole lot of great all-time players that just don't have rings. Charles Barkley being one of them. John Stockton being another.
I don't think the youth understand how amazing Charles Barkley was. Like the last time the Suns were in the finals, it's because of Charles. Like Charles has an MVP to his name. He is an Olympian. Like he was on the dream team. Like Charles Barkley is a decorated basketball player. And we've gotten to the point, like he's retired. Like the farther he's doing from his career, the less credible he's becoming because all we say is rings, rings, rings. And they know that. Again, that's why Shaq throws it in his face. Like you never won a championship, so you don't know what you're talking about. So I'll never get mad at any, especially like I think football players understand how hard it is to win a Super Bowl. So we really don't hold like if Aaron Donald never wins a Super Bowl, he will get the respect he deserves. Like Calvin Johnson is getting the respect he deserves because we understand football is more of a team sport. But
and it's the fact that basketball players they play both sides of the ball, right?
Right.
But sometimes, I mean, like what can you do if you're on the 95, 94 Phoenix Suns team and you happen to run up against Jordan in them? Like what even Charles Barkley was like he got to one point where he just realized that he was not like Michael was the best person on the court. Like what can you do against that? And he's on the best team. Like it's such a team. Like you could have two really good players on your team, but if your bench is a 2-pack of ass, like anytime one of y'all leave the court, I mean you could go to the bench with a 6-point lead, come back in the game, y'all down 7. Then you're just like what is going on? Like, so I hate this notion that just because great players don't win championships, I don't make them great players. Because let me tell you something. Like you said, who like real basketball OGs know Charles Barkley was a problem. Like back in his prime, he was a problem. People in their prime know Allen Iverson was a problem. He was a
talk about it.
People know Tracy McGrady in his prime was a problem. Like was a problem. You don't hear these great players over here talking about Tracy McGrady ain't all that because he ain't win the ring. They'd be like, Tracy McGrady, prime Tracy McGrady gave you buckets.
Tracy McGrady was mentioned in the same breath as Kobe. Like there was a time those two were rivals. Mm-hmm. Come on, man.
So I respect Dame because he likes the Trailblazers organization. They treat him well. He does great things in the Portland community. And if he does win a ring, everyone will be cheering. Like if he gets the NBA Finals, everyone and their mama will be cheering on Dame Lillard to win his first ring. But if he never wins a ring, real basketball heads go, no, Dame Lillard was a problem. Like Dame Lillard is a problem, So it's one of those things, man. And I hate that. And there's like, why do people get it in football, right? Aaron Rodgers right now could retire with 1 ring. We're going to look at him top 10 all time. I don't care who you ask. You will look at that man, a top 10 quarterback of all time, even if he only had 1 ring. There's great quarterbacks. How many people out here generally say Dan Marino is not a great quarterback? You have to, like a real football head will be like, "No, you out your damn mind," because prime Dan Marino was a problem. He just didn't win a ring. That's not his problem. He only played one side of the ball.
Shout out to Prime Time Caper. He jumped in the chat. McGrady versus Kobe was a 5-year war. It absolutely was. Like
exactly.
Youngins, go up, look up Tracy McGrady. Like just do yourself a favor and go look Tracy McGrady.
You can look. Prime Chris Webber was a problem. He just ain't win a ring. He just didn't win a ring. Like I don't understand that. Like these new basketball heads just come in and just be like, ring me up. Like what? Like people realize James Harden might have 2 rings right now if the greatest super team ever wasn't formed. Like that 2017 Rockets team, I was good enough to win a championship. and they still had a 3-2 lead and blew it. What?
Well, they did miss 27 threes. They missed 27 threes, though. Like, James Harden didn't get off the hook for that. Like, y'all missed 27 threes.
I ain't excusing them for the performance. I'm just saying they ran into the greatest super team of all time. You can't do anything about that. Yeah, I mean, yeah, you can make some threes. Obviously, from our knowledge, yes. If you're missing after miss three number 13, somebody please score a damn layup or something. Do something. But I mean, that's an argument for another day, you know.
And last thing before we switch gears, like I kind of heard you low key throw slander on Russell Westbrook's name. That is not allowed on this show.
Okay. I love Russell Westbrook. I want to make it known. Sometimes I'll be honest. Sometimes I'm watching them and I just get frustrated, dog. I just get frustrated watching them sometimes because sometimes they'll be down. They'll be down 2 with like 30 seconds left, and you'll see him dribble, look around. Take a 3, break. You should be like, come on.
That's the Russell Westbrook experience, baby. That's what we're here for. That's what we signed up for, baby.
Is that why KD and Harden both got fed up? Harden after the second time was like, look, man, we homies. I just don't know if we can do this, man. I just don't know if we can do this.
Got him out the paint after 1 year.
Got him out the paint.
And then left himself.
Chris Paul's my favorite example, honestly. If Chris Paul retired tomorrow and said, I'm done with basketball, I want you to tell me and other basketball heads he is not a top 10 point guard of all time. Everywhere he goes, they are successful in making it to the playoffs. And yes, he's had some very questionable leads that end up being dropped, but you still can't deny that is one of the greatest point guards ever. So I hate this notion that just because you don't win a ring that you don't. Stop it. Sometimes you just run into the better team. Stop it.
Hey, dog, a Chris Paul elbow jumper will never get old.
Never. Shout out to the Phoenix, by the way. Y'all having a hell of a season.
Hey, dog, Devin Booker has broken the Mavericks' hearts too many times. I ain't shouting him out. I ain't shouting Devin Booker out. That means stop killing me. So on to the next question. So over the weekend, we saw 2 favorites to reach the NBA Finals. The Lakers and the Nets had some injuries to their star players, and Kevin Durant and Anthony Davis. Which injury hurts their team more going forward in the second half of the season and going into the playoffs?
I'm conflicted, right? So I'm gonna say Anthony Davis and the Lakers, obviously, because what he's able to do as a shot blocker, a rim protector, an all-around great defensive player is probably a little bit more valuable to the Lakers than maybe Kevin Durant and his very efficient offensive scoring is to the Nets. Although I'll say this though, I'll add this though. Kevin Durant is probably the best defender on the Nets team. If we're keeping it a beam, Kevin Durant is easily the best defender on the Nets. And for a team, and for a team that needs about 125 to 130 points to beat anybody, I think you need your best defensive player. But I'm going to say Anthony Davis because of what he brings both offensively and defensively to the team. Because if you think about it, in the playoffs, we've seen what a team that clearly is only LeBron and a lot of really good role players around him, what they can do, right? They'll probably make it to the finals, but the Lakers in the NBA Finals, no AD against, let's just say, the Nets. Whew, I mean, heaven forbid who got to go out there and guard all 3 of them dogs at one time with no AD, right? So I would definitely say that Anthony Davis and his ability to protect the rim, defend 1 through 5, offensively, defensively is very going to be key is going to be key because we saw in their playoff run last year, there were games when, LeBron would just be like, here's the keys to the kingdom, young king. Do you? You know what I'm saying? The game, what was it? Game 3-4 against the Nuggets. Who hit the game winning shot? That was AD. That's why they brought him there to hit the big time shots. So obviously when you lose someone like Kevin Durant, a man who can get you 30 on any night, it's detrimental. But I think what AD brings to the Lakers is just a little bit more valuable to the team overall and their playoff success than the Nets and Kevin Durant.
So I think on the surface, it's going to hurt the Lakers more because they play in a tougher conference. But long term, I think Kevin Durant's injury for the Nets will hurt them more because the more minutes they play together, the better. They don't have chemistry. Like Anthony Davis can miss a month, but he and LeBron already know how to win a championship together. So if he leaves for a month and the Lakers go 500, I mean, the Lakers do have depth, but even if they do go 500 and they're the 4 seed, and the Nets still have 2 guys that can get 40. And, they're above 500 when Kevin Durant comes back. I'm still more concerned about that Nets team trying to gel before the playoffs. Why? It's easier for Anthony Davis to get healthy and for the Lakers to ascend. Like, I trust a 4-seed Laker team to make it to the finals over a 2 or 3-seed Nets team because LeBron knows how to win a ring with Anthony Davis. So I'm concerned about both, but long term, I feel like the Nets will be more affected by the injury.
Yeah, and I think that chemistry note you make is good both offensively and defensively, right? You play together enough that you're learning like rotations, but switches, kind of stuff like that on the defensive end. Obviously on the offensive end, when you have that many dogs, you definitely just need some games under your belt so you guys can just really formulate. Which I think they're at game 7 or 8 when they're all play together. They've only played like 8 games together, so obviously I think as they play together more offensively, their chemistry will get better. But defensively, their chemistry needs to be there. But they've been playing some, decent defense over the last couple of games, probably since that. I forgot the game. Probably for like last week or two, they've been playing better on the defensive end of the ball. So I definitely hear where you're coming from. It's just hard for me because a great offense will beat a great defense any day of the week, right? So and I definitely think that offensively, that Nets team is like. It's putting up astronomical numbers. That Nets offense is very efficient. Now defensively, they can barely stop a running nose right now, but offensively, they're able to outscore you. I think the Lakers, their identity is really on the defensive side of the ball, right? And without your best defensive player being Anthony Davis, I mean, it's kind of hard to really maintain. Granted, they still have a lot of other good defensive players. Even Bron himself is a really good defender. But I think when you're missing that anchor in Anthony Davis, a shot protector, a shot blocker, a rim protector, someone who can guard 1 through 5. It's hard. It messes up your rotations, lineups. Frank Vogel loves to play with different lineups. So, no, but I definitely hear where you're coming from, though. Definitely hear where you're coming from.
So, do you think the Nets can keep those numbers up? Right, like this offense is like this. Video game numbers. Do you think those 3 guys can keep it up over the long term?
Yes. They look. Some days I wonder if they just play rock paper scissors on who's going to put up 30 tonight. Rock paper scissors. James Harden, you got it. I got you. Rock paper scissors. Kyrie, you. That was him last night. He put up 40. Rock paper scissors. Okay, you healthy? 50. I mean, I think offensively they are all 3 guys who can create their own shot. They're all basically essentially guards who are incredible, efficient from inside, outside. They can drive to the basket. I mean, they got incredible skill sets between the 3 of them. And I think obviously when you mix in James Harden's ability to create plays, obviously as the best passer on the team. I mean, their offense is going to be incredible as long as they keep that nucleus together and they build that chemistry.
So you and I had a very interesting conversation before going on air about the MVP of the league, and I feel like it's worth talking about now. So you have the floor. Who is the MVP of the NBA right now?
Well, I think it's obvious that it's LeBron James, man. I think last year it was clear that they were trying to push the Giannis narrative. Right, the Bucks were flying high, best record in the league, PER, stats this, stats that. They were pushing that narrative on Giannis. But if you was watching basketball, you know that the most valuable player to his team, LeBron James. And so because of that, you come into this year, they go on to win a championship. Goes on to win the finals MVP. You come into this year, the shortest off season in NBA history. Right, he comes back, hasn't missed a game. Playing, shooting the ball from the outside at a I believe a career rate right now, a little bit over around near 40% a clip, and his team is right now a top 2 seed in a much more difficult Western Conference. Right, and granted they were the top 1 seed until the Jazz started going on this winning streak. So I think from that perspective, when you look at it, defending world champions, the team is playing great. For me, I think it's LeBron James MVP to lose in all seriousness.
And I am going to go to the home of Allen Iverson. I say that Joel Embiid is the MVP of the league. And here's why. Joel averages more points, more rebounds, and he is shooting better at all 3 levels. His field goal percentage is higher. His 3-point percentage is higher. His free throw percentage is higher than LeBron. He has a higher, He has a higher PR than LeBron. The only thing LeBron excels better at than Embiid stats-wise is assists and real plus minus. Like their win shares are about 4 each. It's one thing for a guard to play like that. It's another thing for a big man to play like that. Like Joel is dominating people, and then he's fueling the Sixers. They're the best seed in the East, and to me, they're on a very short list of teams who are title contenders. Like I think the Sixers could beat the Lakers in 7.
See, I think it's hard. It's hard to really buy into the MVP narrative because, it's hard for me to really fully buy into the Joel Embiid MVP narrative because, one, it's like he doesn't play every game, right? He misses a lot of games because of injury, and granted, the organization is making the right decisions. They know because of his injury history how much to play him and how little to play him, right? And I think when you add in, games played, I mean, Joel has less games, so I think his percentages are going to be a little bit higher, right? I'm just going to throw that one out there. Second, I think when you think all right, how am I trying to say this without throwing anyone under the bus? Because I don't want to discredit fully Joel Embiid. So I think about what Joel Embiid's working with, right? He's working with a very, very good point guard, a generational point guard who's an excellent passer. And I would argue that for the Sixers to have success in the long run, not just in the regular and postseason, Joel Embiid's going to do his thing. But it's more Ben Simmons. When Ben Simmons really gets it going, that team's really, really good. Versus LeBron, if LeBron don't come out and do LeBron-esque things every single night, I mean, that team's getting blown out the water, I mean,
I can make the same argument for Joel, though. Like, if Joel doesn't show up, like that team, who do you run the offense through, right?
But they really lost to the Jazz yesterday, and that's the best team in the West, record speaking.
It was a double-digit loss, right? Hold on. Am I getting my games mixed up? What? Shout out to Eagles Dan. What's up, Dan? Check out him and Jay. Check out him and Jay on the podcast with Upside every other Thursday. It's fire. Those two guys are stars. They're going to take it national. You heard it here first. Yeah, they lost by 11 points. If Joel is in that game last night, I think the Sixers win, and I think the Sixers win comfortably. I don't think we care about Jordan Clarkson.
Do they though? If Joel Embiid plays, I think that loss goes from 11 points to maybe 4 or 5. But I still don't know if they win that game. Try if the Jazz without AD, with AD being injured, if LeBron was the rest against the Jazz, that's like a 20-point loss.
We get to figure that out because the Jazz, the next 4 games, 3 of them are against the LA teams. I think it's a back-to-back against the Lakers, and then I think they play like the Timberwolves, and I think it's the Clippers or something. The Lakers and the Jazz play soon, and AD will be there, so we'll see. Like, we'll have to know because you're saying LeBron is MVP, not AD, but we'll get to see the Lakers against the Jazz, the 2 best teams in the West.
But another man I want to throw in there, just so we make sure we mention his name. Well, 2 other names I want to throw in there before, just to make sure we mention their names. Nikola Jokic, Stephen Curry. I think when you watch the Nuggets, right? If you've seen the way Jokic completely just takes over games, not only with his scoring but with his passing, best passing big man in the league right now, easily.
Yes.
That's one. And I think what he brings to that team, offensively and defensively, every night, very, very important. And then for Steph Curry, I mean, do we really need to? I mean, come on now. He's putting up crazy. I think he's putting up better numbers this year than his unanimous MVP season. It's crazy is they still fighting for the 8th seed. That's how good the West is. Like Stephen Curry's putting up career numbers, and they're barely holding on to the 8th seed. Joel Embiid misses a game here and a game there and a game here, and they're second in the East right now. So, I get what you're saying, but it's I bet you their record without Joel Embiid is, I know it's probably under 500, but probably not by a lot of games. Probably by less than 4 or 5 games.
I'm not going to lie. I watched a lot of Nuggets basketball because I'm tired of them tricking and lying to me. Like every year we get on this Nuggets hype train, and every year they let us down. And I understand Jokic is a beast, and he is, and it's no disrespect to him and Jamal Murray, but I'm tired of it. I'm not falling for it again.
They're a young team. I think Michael Porter Jr. is the key. Once he defensively really comes around, I think that team's going to do a lot better because he's a future star in the league. Once he's still figuring some things out, he's very young, but I think once Michael Porter Jr. really starts getting together, that team's going to take off. But it's going to be hard, right? Because they're playing in the Western Conference. So even when they do get it together, I mean, you still got Paul George and Kawhi Leonard who are still going to be really good. You're going to have LeBron and AD who are still going to be really good. Spider Mitchell, Rudy Gobert, they're probably going to be really good. So then you got Luka and KP who I think are come up right now. The whole Mavs team's on the come up right now. So it's, even when the Nuggets figure it out, it's like, damn, you're still playing in the West. It's like, if it ain't one thing, it's another, you figure everything out and damn, you still in the Western Conference where, every game is pretty much a playoff game and you playing in the West. So it's which is another reason why I think LeBron's MVP case is a little bit stronger than Joel Embiid's because it's clear. If you look at the standings from the East and the West, you play it like when you out West, every game is essential. It's basically a playoff game. You in the East, you run into the Cavs, you run into the Knicks, maybe you run into
the Knicks are 6 in the East right now. Whoa, don't have it now. Don't fall into Knicks Twitter. Knicks Twitter.
Bad day, maybe you got the Wizards. They couldn't stop 2 nosebleeds. So I think there's definitely some beater teams in the East that teams just kind of punch on whenever they play them. But in the West, there really is no beat up team, right? Timberwolves, but they were missing Cat for a while. The Thunder are just young. The Thunder have like a lot of good pieces, a lot of good basketball players. They're just young right now. So the West is only going to get better. The East is getting better, but I think they're really, really top heavy. And from the drop off from there is, it's just more bigger than the drop off in the West.
Let me say, we love you, Knicks Twitter. Please do not jump on our mentions with that.
Hey,
Knicks
man,
Twitter. Talk about Jazz Twitter.
Y'all are excited for what's coming. Like y'all can see the upward trend with Dibs and how the team's going. I'm praying right now that the Knicks organization does not let y'all down because y'all have had too many disappointments. And I know if the season starts tanking and that team starts tanking, y'all don't want to go back to the draft because y'all have terrible luck when it comes to lottery picks. So I'm hoping for the Knicks to at least be a 5, 6, 7 seed, make it to the playoffs. At least they can have something to look forward to.
Yeah, we love Knicks Twitter. Please don't stab us in our mentions with your broken beer bottles. All right, so it's the point of the show where one of us, both of us, or neither one of us, we get to talk about something that's on their mind. And D, with your permission, I'd like to try another take at this.
My brother, the floor is yours. Speak on it.
All right, so whenever a team or person does something that's deemed disrespectful, a large part of no fun Twitter chimes in, and they want to talk about integrity and sportsmanship. And the latest example of this is Antoine Winfield throwing up the peace sign the entire Super Bowl after the game, interception, right? And they always say stuff like act like there was 4. And when I say this, I mean this in the most disrespectful manner possible. That is the same person that stands on the wall when Juvenile back that thing up, come on. Like they don't want to have any fun. Like they're just boring you, right? Like it's just really, really boring. These people are fun killers. Do not listen to them. If the Titans or if the Ravens want to stumble over the Titans logo, I'm here for it. Sam Cassell want to tell you how big his undercarriage is after hitting the big shots, lay it on me. I want all of it. Sean Kemp want to yam on somebody and point laugh at him, bring it on. One of the best moments in my life is listening to Joe Buck clutch his pearls while Randy Moss was mooning Packer fans in that playoff game. That's what we're here for. So I say that to say this. First, my last point is, D, can you come closer to the screen? I want to tell you a secret because a lot of people are like, what about the kids? I don't care about your children. We don't care about the kids at all. Sportsmanship is for Pop Warner, it is for high schoolers, and it is to a degree for college kids. But for professional athletes, no, sportsmanship is left at the door. Taunt someone, yam on someone. If you don't want it to happen, stop them. We're not here to raise your children. We're here to be entertained. That is the most, I hate integrity Twitter.
This is, yeah, you know what? And let me add on to something. Look, it was just like that year when Cam won the MVP and everyone was mad that he was doing Superman in end zone. Like, brother, brother, you do realize your defense had a chance to stop him, right? Like your defense, if they wanted to do something about it, they could have stopped him. So I'm with you on that because sometimes, okay, Pop Warner, yes, you're learning the fundamentals of the game. You don't want to practice bad sportsmanship. High school, on the question, because we was talking trash in high school. College, no, no. Like unless your coaches, coaches. A coach is gonna practice it so they don't have to deal with the headlines. So I understand that too. But on the field, in the court, yes, I hope you popping your shit. Please do. And if you're a professional getting paid millions, man, I hope you like a Pat Bev or Draymond Green with the trash talk. Like, look, if somebody airball, I need you airball. I need you to hear it. Like, I don't understand that. Like, why? Like, when your team wins the chip, what do you want them talking about? Hey, man, good game. No, I want you talking about, yeah, we the kings of the world. Y'all suck. Like, come on, talk your trash. Like, you did this. You get paid for this. You sacrificed blood, sweat, tears, time to get here. Yes, if you win and you winning, you talk your trash. Because let me tell you something, brother. At the end of the day, yeah, that trash talk is going to sting. But they still got millions, and they're gonna get over it. Now, my only caveat to this is, and this is an important caveat: if you're gonna be out there talking trash, you keep it in the realm of the sport.
Yes.
Don't ever get into disrespecting people's families and people's kids or using racial slurs, because I'm gonna tell you right now, that ain't trash talk, brother. That's an ass whooping. Like that's like we gotta like things gotta be held. Like you can be like, yeah, what's up about that? Talk your trash on the field. As soon as you call someone out their name, nah, I'm gonna need to see you outside. I'm gonna need you to see you outside the locker room. You look. One of the funniest memories I've ever had on Inside the NBA was when Charles Barkley and Shaq was laughing about when the Clippers and the Rockets were getting ready to throw hands, and they had a secret tunnel to the locker room, dog. They had a secret tunnel to the locker room. I'm like, yo, can you imagine what was being said to someone for someone to use a secret tunnel to the locker room to come find you? That means you said something that was just a little bit too personal. You know what I'm saying? It's okay. If like when Devin Booker called Paul George soft this year, I'm like, like, okay, that's the edge. Like, that's the edge. Like, if you can't, after soft, like, don't call them nothing else after soft. Soft is the line. You can call someone soft, they can get over it. Now, you call them a soft beep, beep, beep. Nah, I'm like, oh, no. But now I'm with you. Sportsmanship, it's like, yo, when you practice, you put in the hours, you talk your shit. You deserve it, especially if you winning. Now, if you talking trash and you losing, brother, scoreboard, like, come on now. Now you just look silly. Like, come on now. Just like I always think about those kids. Like, you ever see like those kids in college basketball when like they know they're clearly about to lose, teams dribbling the ball out, and he'll try to steal it just for a layup. Like, what are you doing, dog? That 2 points ain't gonna help you. You still lost the game. And decisively, if they're just dribbling out the ball on you. So
I love that. It's always funny.
I'm just like, yo, like, why are you messing up somebody's spread? If you don't just take that L, like, stop it,
Oh, there's the gambler. Maybe he's trying to help the spread.
Now, after last and my fail to hit multiple parlays, I'm sitting sports betting out for at least 2 weeks. 2 weeks. Let me get paid again, then I'll consider it.
Hey, man, going for two, man. We got lots of runners on these streets. Who can get you your parlay? Who get your parlays right?
Nah, man. I'm starting to realize there's a reason why the more teams in the parlay, the higher the payout. Because I was doing like 5-team parlays and I was getting 4 right, and the one I got wrong, it'd be like, oh, I'll give you one. Last week I had a 5-team parlay. All 4 was hitting going into the Sixers Blazers game, and the Sixers let Melo have a vintage Nuggets Melo moment, and I ended up losing the parlay. Ended up losing that on like, what was it, $400? Man, I was sitting there just sick. I was just sitting there like, with the I eat ass face. That I had to just, all right, man. Like I was like, all right, man. Like, what am I going to do?
Well, folks, that is it for episode 2 to speak on it. D, where can the people find you?
Man, you can find me on Twitter, Instagram, Twitch at LosDMix. That is LosDeemix. Because you already know when you see this Nas fade, it can only be one brother, the good brother, LosDMix. Floor is yours, my brother.
And that is it for us. Like, I'm find me at MadAds14. They call me Danny Ocean. D, say goodbye to the people.
People, stay blessed.
Peace.